Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. So hopefully you guys all saw my video from about a week or two ago where I discussed the very popular YouTuber Megan Bowen, how she had IBS and her doctors recommended that she quit being vegan. And as always, I gave a very evidence-based response. I just didn't make stuff up or cherry pick the data or anything like that. Well, it so happens that a really small anti-vegan YouTuber made a response to my video. And normally I wouldn't respond to a small anti-vegan channel. I don't want to shine any light on them, but I'll say at least she was really respectful. Her name is Juliet Autumn. She didn't, like what normally anti-vegans do is they just focus on you, make personal attacks, and don't really listen to what you said. Well, anyway, she tried her best to listen to what I said, and let's see if she's right. Was I being unthoughtful, uncaring, and just really just loose with the science? And let's see if she really debunked my response.
I feel so bad for her. So then Ryan decides to make this video criticizing what she decided to do in order to fix her bleeding intestines.
Well, first, let me stop right here. She makes it sound like I only could find this one study to support what I'm saying, and that's far from the case, as we'll see in a moment, but let's continue on.
Now, Ryan pulls out this one study. He says, the science is behind us here. It says it's widely believed that IBS is caused by a deficient intake of dietary fiber. So clearly, she's just not getting enough fiber. That must have been the problem. She must have been eating low fiber foods before.
Well, I feel she's being very disingenuous here because that's not what I said at all. In fact, I made fun at the idea that a person could solve their IBS just by increasing their fiber intake. As we'll see here, and as I'll show you, it's much more than the quantity of fiber. It's the type of fiber, the quality of fiber. Great, done, handled. All you got to do is eat a bunch of fiber-filled foods and your IBS is gone. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way if you have IBS because there's two types of fiber, and one type, the short chain, actually causes the exact same symptoms that Megan had, the flatulence, the abdominal pain, and the bloating, while the other type of fiber doesn't have. In fact, they're low gas production foods, and these are the kinds of fibers that you should be eating if you have IBS. So yes, my responder here didn't even care about this important distinction of two types of fiber. One type that's completely fine for people with IBS and is recommended, and the other kind of fiber which is not as good and is to be avoided or at least minimized. But my responder here didn't care about this at all, that certain kinds of fibers are perfectly fine for people with IBS. And all she could really do was focus on how I showed just one study, like insinuating that I showed some kind of weird outlier study that didn't reflect the scientific consensus.
And this is hardly the science. I'm making quotation marks right here with my hands because there's tons of studies out there. You picked one study.
Well, if there are indeed tons of other studies out there and you're applying tons of other studies that disprove what I'm saying, you could have easily showed us one, and you didn't because you're not going to find any. And here's why. The study I showed reflects the scientific consensus. I could have easily picked something from a website, pop culture, but then I get criticized for not showing science. So I typically err on the side of showing a scientific study because that's a little bit more legit. But let's go to a site like WebMD, a very non-controversial, non-pro-vegan site, and they say the exact same thing that my study said because it reflects a scientific consensus. If you have IBS, it's recommended that you have more soluble fiber and less of the insoluble fiber. If you still think I'm cherry picking here, let's take a quick look at Mike the Vegan's video responding to Megan Bowen.
Of course, there are different types of fiber, and to elaborate on that, we have insoluble fiber, which is things like cellulose, that plant structure, and then soluble fiber that digests in water. And for IBS, there appears to be quite a big difference. In fact, soluble fiber appears to help things out from this meta-analysis of like 14 studies. Quote, soluble fiber is effective in treating IBS. What?
So yes, I only showed one study in my video, but I could have shown what Mike showed here, another study that was a meta-analysis of 14 random clinical trials. So I have about, 15, 16 studies, plus WebMD to support what I'm saying, and my anti-vegan responder didn't show anything. So I think it's quite clear I wasn't cherry picking. But anyway, let's continue on to the discussion about soy.
She mentions that she's allergic to soy, so then Ryan decides to plug his own books here. And
well, first of all, I want to say that these are not my books. They were created completely 100% by the work and efforts of Angie. So let's give credit where credit's due. Secondly, I didn't show the books here to plug them. I showed the books to disprove what she's saying, what Megan was saying, that how soy is so necessary for vegans. Because Megan couldn't eat soy, as we'll see, she had a soy allergy. So what is she supposed to eat? So I'm going to show how between these two books, there's 80 recipes, and only one of these 80 recipes includes soy. So soy is far from being some kind of necessary ingredient that you must use in most of your recipes if you're vegan. I want to call out this video responder for doing one thing that kind of bugs me that anti-vegans do, is to freeze you on a very unflattering video frame and then have them speak all over that for like a minute as everyone's staring at me looking hideous. And I have to admit, I'm not like Brad Pitt or Ryan Gosling or anything like that, so it might be challenging to find a good frame. So to help them out here, and so I don't have to look at these silly frames, I'm going to insert better looking frames where she had these hideous ones. So anyway, let's continue on.
Says that, there's only one recipe or something like that in his books that uses soy, and that there's tons of things you can eat that's not soy.
So why'd she laugh there? Why'd she make it seem ridiculous that I'm suggesting that there's tons of things that people can eat that are not soy? And in fact, Mike the Vegan poked some fun at this concept.
Just for people in general to set the record straight, soy does not equal vegan. It's not soyganism, which would be defined as, quote, seeking to include as much as is practical or possible soy products all day, every day. I'm sure some of you out there are actually soygans.
And her point was like, soy has a lot of protein. What am I going to eat? Because a lot of vegan food has soy.
And I know a lot of soy-free vegans. Soy is a popular a popular source of vegan protein, but there are plenty of other sources. For other people, I know she has issues with these, but you have all of the other legumes, which we're going to explore the issues with in a bit. You also have things like nuts and seeds. You have that mycoprotein or mushroom protein corn product line that's out there. In addition to corn, you have quinoa.
Exactly. That's what Mike and I are saying, that if you for some reason can't eat soy as a vegan, you don't need to stop being vegan. There's plenty of other foods that you can eat if you feel like you need to get a little extra protein in your diet. Anyway, let's move on to something that kind of bugs me here. It was when people put words in my mouth when they try to debunk a point that I never made in the video.
He kind of says, oh, you should be eating bananas. I eat them all the time and they don't bother me, blah, blah, blah.
So let me give you guys a pro tip when you're making a response video to other YouTubers. If you're trying to disprove what someone's saying, actually show them saying it themselves. Don't try to re-quote them or just make stuff up, because I never said anything of the sort in this video about, yeah, you should be eating bananas, they don't bug me. Who cares? If they don't bug me, who knows? They might bug Megan. I'm not telling her that she should eat a bunch of bananas and she'll be cool.
And he's saying, duckweed has tons of protein, and he's basically, in one hand, he's saying you don't need that much protein on a vegan diet.
Again, please show me saying this. I never made any recommendation or quote about how much or how little protein vegans need. In fact, I went through my video and really tried my best to see where she even got this idea, and I think it was from this quote of mine. And notice how I didn't talk anything about protein needs for vegans. What are you gonna eat? Well, I've been vegan 10 years and I hardly ever eat tofu. Once in a blue moon, I hardly ever mock meat, just on the occasion when I go to an Asian vegan restaurant. It's all about whole food plants. You don't need to have all these mock meats and tofu all the time. I don't know how I could have said that any more clearly. As a vegan, it's not necessary to eat a bunch of mock meats and tofu all the time. If you took from that somehow that I'm saying vegans don't need all that much protein, you're just making stuff up. You didn't listen.
And then on the other hand, he's plugging this protein that he has a sponsorship from.
Not sure if she understands the difference here, but I don't have a sponsorship with Clean Machine or any company for that matter. I do have an affiliate link deal that I actually reached out to them about, because they gave me some product to try out one time and it just put on a shelf, and many months later I tried it and I was blown away about how good it was. So I actually reached out to them and said, hey, your product's legit. I want to work with you guys, but not sponsored by them.
So it just doesn't really make sense. Like, it's kind of hypocritical to say that, well, that's a myth that you don't need protein on a vegan diet, but I do take protein and here's my sponsored product.
All right, so I find this humorous. I never said that it's a myth that vegans don't need protein. Notice how she didn't show any video of me saying that, because I never said that. Like I said vegans don't need soy or mock meats, but that's not the same thing as saying vegans don't need protein. In fact, go back and watch any of my videos. I've never said that vegans need more or less protein compared to non-vegans. They're just making stuff up here. Maybe she's just repeating something that she heard from some other YouTuber or vegan, but don't hold me accountable to what others have said. Hold me accountable to what I said. I never said anything of the sort. What I did say is that I work out every day like Megan. Well, let me just show you what I said. I work out every day as well, Megan, and let me share this with you. So if you're looking for a high source of protein, well, since you call tofu high protein tofu, like this has lentil or duckweed has even more protein than high protein tofu.
But this just kind of bothered me, and it just got me thinking, like, these vegans on YouTube and Instagram, do they really care about you? Like, if you come down and say, look, my intestines are bleeding from the inside, are they going to sit with you at your hospital bed?
I believe she just completely missed the point of our video. This is not to say that we don't care about Megan's bleeding intestines and her condition. It's that she probably needed to get some more opinions, some more advice as to if she really needed to quit being vegan. She just had the advice of one doctor, and here's what Mike said about that.
And for me, I just couldn't take the recommendation of a single doctor as like the word of God. I would probably go straight to a plant-based vegan dietitian and see what they have to say about this.
Yes, I agree with Mike 100% here. It's pretty obvious that Megan's doctor never explained to her the distinction between soluble versus insoluble fibers. Remember, soluble fibers are fine for people with IBS, but instead Megan's doctor limited her fiber intake to 35 grams a day, making it much more difficult to be vegan. So that's why we're making these videos, me and Mike, not to like pressure her to remain vegan while her health deteriorates. Far from it. We're giving her some additional information that her original medical doctor may have not been aware of. How does that make us bad people?
And it's kind of just like what Joey Carbstrong says, you know, veganism is an ethical stance. It's about saving the animals. It is not about your health. It is not about, achieving perfect health or anything like that. And you know what? I actually agree with his honesty in this case, you know.
Well, yeah, I respect Joey myself, but two things she got wrong here. First of all, I think she's saying that I'm not an ethical vegan, unlike Joey. No, first and foremost, I'm an ethical vegan. That's what got me into veganism, and that's going to keep me vegan for the rest of my life. Secondly, I think she's trying to lump me in with this group of like radical influencers who promote vegan diets for perfect human health, as she said there. I've never promoted anything of the sort. In fact, I know Joey refers to this position paper as well from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which doesn't say vegan diets are for perfect or optimal human health or anything of the sort. It says very clearly here that appropriately planned vegan diets are healthful and nutritionally adequate for all people in all stages of life.
But I kind of wish some of these health promoting vegans would take a lesson from Joey and realize that their health promoting diet is not healthy.
Well, that may be your opinion, but you cite zero evidence. On the other hand, the position paper I'm referring to here is based upon not an opinion, but over 100 scientific studies as evidence supporting the healthfulness and adequacy of vegan diets. And she's also putting words in Joey's mouth. I've never once heard him say that he's an ethical vegan who strangely believes that vegan diets are unhealthy, because I've seen him refer to this exact position paper in his many debates that he gets into people with on the streets about is veganism valid or not. So anyway, leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know what you thought of any of these questions and criticisms here, and should I respond to anti-vegan videos about me or not. So yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about that, but I just did this one because I thought it would be fun. So anyway guys, like, subscribe. Until next time, let's keep it vegan.
When does the pain